Welcome back to my channel. Let's dive into the second chapter of Freen Becky's new series Cranium. Busia took a deep breath many times today. She was missing her relaxed post-graduation life, especially those moments of rest after exhausting classes. Now, sharing a tent with Finya was a whole new level of tension. Seemed as if her karma was settling accounts with her. Her eyes fell on the label in front of the tent. It was for their accommodation, set up 200 meters away from the incident site. Out of the 8 tents, the label on Bua's tent read, Dr. Busia Mayton, but the second name written below her name was troubling her. Dr. Finya Thananont. It was clear that Finya, despite her tantrums and disappearances, had successfully graduated. Finya, like Bua, specialized in physical anthropology. However, the professor often sent her out for fieldwork, where discoveries related to archaeology and civilization took place. Due to this, Finya's significant experience with historical human civilizations, Busia let out a long sigh in defeat. Just then, Finya arrived with a large piece of luggage and deliberately bumped into her shoulder. Bua felt like sticking her foot out to make Finya fall flat on her face, but she held herself back. You've been gone for so long, and still haven't learned basic human manners. Bua didn't knock her down, but couldn't stop herself from saying this. Finya turned around and looked at her angrily, and tried to grab his shirt, but Bua shook her hand away. Finya had a sarcastic smile on her face, and her eyes fixed on Bua's lips. She tauntingly said, "Your mouth is as smart as your educational qualification. Just take care of these pretty lips." Then she arrogantly said, "I'll sleep on the bed near the entrance, you sleep inside." Bua ignored her words and sat in front of the tent, picking up a handful of soil. She prayed for everything to go well and slowly let the soil slip from her hand. This was her way of seeking permission from the local guardian spirit before starting work in a new place. But this time, she felt as though luck wasn't on her side. Finya came there again, and while passing by said, "Lotus Pearl, I'm going to take dinner." This was the nickname which she had given to Bua during university to tease her. Without looking back, she left the area. Bua decided that this time she wouldn't respond, as dragging out this drama would waste both her time and energy. This was Finya, whose temper was so unpredictable, it seemed like her intellect had completely refused to develop. When she saw Finya heading towards the temporary cafeteria, Busia went into the tent and started arranging her sleeping bed. Sleeping was her favorite activity. All day, Bua worked hard sorting and organizing the bones. She instructed the staff to leave the bodies at the site and use labels and tapes to identify them separately. It was a tedious process, but necessary. After this, they had to compare each victim's personal history, using program measurements and appearances to verify their identities, and hand them over to the police. Meanwhile, other teams were focused on finding the black box to determine the cause of the plane crash. In the afternoon, during a conversation between Bua and Finya, they learned that the plane had suddenly lost contact and disappeared from the radar. They found out about the crash when locals made a distress call. When they reached the site, they saw the plane wreckage and scattered remains of the victims all over the area. Luckily, there were no other casualties, or things could have been much worse. Bua found Finya's sudden arrival unsettling. It was hard to understand why Dr. Finya was so irritated with her. Dr. Nisara was never unfair, but if she were, Bua thought she might prefer Finya over her, because Finya was often sent abroad for field work. Finya had gained a lot of experience in dangerous routes and fieldwork. Yet, why was she so troubled by someone as ordinary as Bua? There was no clear answer to this. Bua decided it was best to stay away from Finya, so she planned to take a shower before dinner to avoid running into her. She took a deep breath and braced herself. There was still a long way to go in her work here. After taking the first shower of the day, Bua decided to skip going to the cafeteria. A staff member approached her with a meal box, saying, "This is for you, maybe because you kept delaying, and now the cafeteria is about to close. By the way, the briefing has been postponed until tomorrow morning." Looking towards the sound, Bua saw that Finya was sitting on the bed. Her eyes shifted to the meal box on her bed, 2 bottles of water, and the name tag for this operation. Finya began unpacking her meal box. Bua quietly picked up her meals and went out of the tent. She needed a quiet place to eat and mentally prepare for the next day. Identifying the victims was a very difficult task. Due to the explosion impact and fire, bodies were scattered all over the place. Some victims were so badly damaged that their identification was impossible. It was impossible to find all the body parts and return them to their families. Bua estimated that it would take more than 2 weeks to complete the work. Yet, she prayed from the bottom of her heart that the work be completed quickly, just so she wouldn't have to spend much time with Finya. She was afraid that, if this interaction continued for long, it would have a negative impact on her mental state. Every interaction with Finya always drained Bua's energy. This had been happening since her university days. Hearing Finya's sarcastic voice and constant taunts had become unbearable for her. Perhaps that's why their advisor often sent Finya abroad. But it was also true that Finya was an exceptionally talented anthropologist, and their advisor knew that well. There was a shortage of decent anthropologists in the country, low pay, tough jobs, and no prestige. It was a field that often remained out of sight. In this incident, too, all that remained of the victims were damaged skeletons or a few bones. No one cared about these remains, but they do. Bua stepped out of the tent. She didn't want to argue with anyone, so she looked for a quiet spot to have dinner. As the night was progressing, the weather was getting colder. She felt that it was as if she was on a summer break, but the wreckage of the plane and the body parts of the victims ended her feeling. Footsteps coming from the side caught Bua's attention. When she looked back, Finya was standing in front of her. She wondered if fate would ever give her a moment of peace. Finya coming towards her, Bua said, "I am tired and sleepy. Please let me rest. I don't have the strength to argue with you right now." Finya gave a faint smile and said, "I just came to tell you to take care of yourself and not stay out too late." Bua picked up a spoon of rice and put it in her mouth. The tiredness of the whole day had ruined her appetite and the taste of food. She couldn't even gather the energy to argue with Finya. Bua glared at her in annoyance, but said nothing. With that, Finya walked away. She quickly disappeared in the darkness, but Bua's eyes kept following her. After finishing the meal, Bua remained sitting there for a while. This was the first time that she had come out of the institute after graduation, even though it was an urgent duty assigned by her professor. But Finya's unexpected presence had left her unsettled. She didn't know who called Finya here. If it had been her advisor, she would have known in advance. Yet, she felt relieved that with Finya's experience, the work would be completed quickly. Whoever called her here made the right decision. If Bua had to take the name of any expert outside the institute, it would have been Finya. Bua could only hope that her old classmate wouldn't trouble her too much. She sat outside the tent for some more time to calm her mind, and then decided to return to the tent. The next morning, she had to get up early to start her work. She prayed that her first field work as an anthropologist would go smoothly without any interruptions, but deep down, she had a feeling that might not happen. And with that, this chapter comes to an end. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.